Do you ever feel like the narcissist always seems to be at least one step ahead of you? That with whatever you do, whatever you say, it always seems to go wrong for you. Well, in this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 key tactics that the narcissist will use as mind games with you. And you need to watch all 3 so that you know what those red flags are to start to look out for them. Hi everybody, my name is Caroline Strawson and I'm a positive psychology trauma coach and somatic therapist. And I specialise in helping people just like yourself who've been through the trauma of narcissistic abuse move from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. And it's an absolute honour to have you. Maybe you're a new watcher here. If so, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell so you get reminded every single week as my new episodes are dropped, because my aim is I've been where you are and I want to help you know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So I like to think my channel is all about education, inspiration and hope. Hope to know that where you are right now does not have to be where you are literally forevermore either, because really it doesn't have to be. So I want to share with you some personal stuff really in this episode of the things that I always felt like my ex-husband, who was a covert narcissist, always seemed to be like one step ahead. Now, I like to think of myself as an intelligent woman, and that's one of the things I found really, really difficult when I came out of the relationship with my ex-husband, because I used to say a lot of things to myself like, how could I be so stupid? Why did I stay for so long? And actually, he was the one eventually that left and left me literally at rock bottom, barely able to get out of bed, but it was my 2 children, obviously, that drove me to do that. But I want to talk to you about 3 main mind games that the narcissist will play with you to try and gain control, to be that person who is above you and really making you feel like maybe you've done something wrong. Number 1 is what we call triangulation. Now, you may well have heard of this before, but triangulation is where the narcissist will literally create a triangle with them, you, and somebody else. So that might be they are out with maybe somebody you know, and they come back and they say, so-and-so was saying this about you. Don't worry though, I stuck up for you. I did this. And equally, if we were a fly on the wall when the narcissist was talking to the other person, they would be saying something very, very similar too. So triangulation is when the narcissist use you, them, and somebody else. And almost think about it as the narcissist with some scales. So the narcissist is there and needs to have those scales in place for them to gain what we call their drug of choice, which is narcissistic supply, which is the attention. Because remember, we know narcissists are deeply wounded individuals. They may act like they're not, but they are. And they have to project their pain always outwardly. So it's always about them feeling superior. It's about you almost serving them, making sure they get what we call this narcissistic supply. So with the triangulation, if you're not giving them the narcissistic supply, they need somebody else to get it. And they will use that other person to bring back conversations as well to triangulate you. Now, this can happen with friends. It can happen with family. It can even happen if your narcissist says, oh, I don't want to hurt you anymore. I'm going to go to therapy. You know, I get lots of messages from people who will say to me, oh, but my partner is going to therapy and you know, they're open to changing. Let me tell you, a narcissist will never, ever change. There is no scientific evidence to say that they will. So this isn't me just being heartless and saying, no, castigate these people from society because we can never help them. They can't be cured. We know from science that they are not capable of healthy relationships. Yes, there have been medication that they have had with some success, but not to the extent where they are capable of having a healthy relationship with you. So it's really, really important that if you have somebody in your life who is a narcissist and they are saying that they are going to therapy, they can use triangulation with the therapist that they are seeing. And I see this many, many times. You know, I get messages where they say, you know, my partner or my ex-partner's therapist has said to them, it's me, that I shouldn't have said this, I shouldn't have done that. Now, when you are working in the therapist space, you know, obviously if I'm working with a client and we are talking about things that are abusive, I am going to speak to that part. You know, I have lots of people who come to me and talk to me about money in particular. And very often I will say, I just want to name this, that this is financial abuse, because we don't know sometimes what is abuse and what isn't, because we often think of abuse of walking around with black eyes and broken noses. And that really isn't the case often with narcissistic abuse. It's much more subtle than that. But a narcissist can use their therapist to triangulate you. So they can go to the therapist and say all the bad stuff that you are behaving like to get the supply from the therapist. And then when they come away, they can come back and say to you, my therapist said this, that I'm doing really, really well and I'm trying really, really hard. So that you then will give them supply of, oh, that's really, really good. Or you will start to feel bad because the narcissist will say so much of their behavior is because of you. So I want you to be really mindful of the mind games that a narcissist is playing with you, that if they're bringing another party into the conversation and saying somebody else has said something and bringing it back, it's like school playground stuff, right? So-and-so said this about you, but don't worry, I stuck up for you. Okay, this is like playground stuff. But remember, a narcissist is like a toddler still. So that's the type of behavior that we have come to expect. So triangulation, if the narcissist is bringing another person into a triangle of your relationship, and this can be when you are in the relationship and when you are out of the relationship as well, to try and make you feel a certain way. So be mindful. Another person, just be careful. That's a mind game that they're going to play, because you're going to start to feel bad. So the second mind game that the narcissist can play on you, and this really ties in a little bit with number one as well, and that is isolating you from your friends and family. When you meet a narcissist and you become in a relationship with a narcissist, and this really is speaking to those of you who have partners that are narcissists, what can happen is, and again, it is so insidious when we talk about narcissistic abuse. When I look back at my relationship with my ex-husband and I'm like, oh, Caroline, how could you be so stupid? It's because narcissistic abuse just doesn't happen overnight. It's not like one day they are lovely and the next day they are not, so it's really noticeable. That's not what happens with a narcissist. It's a chipping away. It is very, very subtle and insidious until literally you are at rock bottom. You're constantly then in a freeze response. You're in shutdown because your whole system is like danger, danger, danger in this relationship. But again, because of trauma bonds, we end up staying often in that relationship far longer than we actually deserve to. But that isn't that. It's about judging people who do. It's about understanding it feels safer to stay when you're in that abusive relationship than actually leave. Now, a narcissist will use isolation and tactics with you to try and move you away from friends and family, because the narcissist, remembers, wants you to be totally reliant on them for everything, for money, for attention, for love in particular, so that literally your world is them. And that's what they want. So if you have friends or family, that's going to be a big red flag to a narcissist, because they might say something about the narcissist behavior. They might, God forbid, take time away from the narcissist too. So the narcissist will try and isolate you away from your friends and your family. And they will do this by these subtle remarks in a number of ways. One, before you see them, and sometimes when you come back from seeing them. So let's say you arrange to go for, and I'm going to use a family example here. Let's say you arrange to go and have dinner with your family. And when you go off and have dinner, when you come back, the narcissist will just say little things. Oh, I can't believe your mum said that. How did you feel about that? I'd have felt really awful if my mum had said something like that. Or, gosh, your dad is really controlling, isn't he? I'm really surprised. No wonder as a child when you were growing up and you're with me now, I'd never treat you like that. I can't believe your dad would. So what they will do is they will just kind of little droplets all of the time are trying to get you to see your friends and family in a different way, almost to think, oh God, yeah, they are being really mean and horrible to me. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're being so loving and nice. And it will isolate you away from them. The other tactic that they will use in alignment with isolation is, let's say you arrange to go out for a night out with your friends. And again, this is a big red flag to a narcissist, because that's time away from them. How dare you have time away from the narcissist? So what they will do is they will create an argument before you go. So let's say you've arranged to go out on a Saturday night. As that week is progressing, they will start to initiate arguments that you may have. So by the Saturday, you're thinking, oh my God, he's really, really not happy with me. And And you either make a choice, you either still go, but when you are there, you're not enjoying the time with your friends. What you're doing is you're kind of texting and trying to make sure they are okay. So you're not actually present with your friends, or indeed you cancel altogether, because that's what the narcissist wants. The narcissist wants at some stage for you to isolate yourself from your family, because it could be collateral damage because they might notice the behavior. And equally, they don't want you to have a social life, because if you have a social life, they might start picking up on how you are, how you start to act, and might start saying something and getting you to think about your behavior and the narcissist behavior. So they will do everything that they possibly can to isolate you. So if your partner, who is potentially a narcissist, doesn't want you to have social time with your friends and your family, this is a big red flag. It's a mind game so that they can literally isolate you, so you are totally reliant on them emotionally, financially, physically, everything. The narcissist wants you to see them as their world. So the third mind game that the narcissist will do is what we call gaslighting. And I'm sure many of you have heard that phrase, and many of you may not know exactly what that means. Gaslighting is an emotional manipulation tactic that a narcissist will use really for you to start doubting yourself. And this is probably the biggest one and biggest mind game that a narcissist will do. Because again, this happens over a period of time. And very often it is when you start to feel something in your gut that this isn't right, or what they're saying isn't true, and maybe you start to ask a question, the narcissist will completely manipulate the situation into you starting to believe that you are the crazy one, you are the bad person, or even you are the narcissist. They literally turn everything around. And gaslighting is when you really start to lose your sense of self, because you start to doubt and trust your own feelings. And what happens is you might start to ask questions of a narcissist, and they might get really angry at you and deviate away. And very often they don't answer the question. What they do is they get angry about how you've asked the questions. So phrases with gaslighting are things like, oh, not that again. Oh, you're so sensitive. You are such a drama queen. All of these. So you're asking actually valid questions, but they will turn that around. Oh, you never trust me. I love you so much and you just never ever trust me. I can't do anything right. So they will use these types of tactics. And they will even, and I had a situation with my ex-husband where he literally told me he'd killed somebody. And yeah, I know, it's a bit crazy, right? And in my gut, I was thinking, well, this is not true, because it was at work, and having had a medical background and working in the same area as him, I kind of knew everything he was saying didn't make sense. So I was kind of asking questions, genuine questions. He was getting angry at me. He was making me feel bad for asking these questions, to which even at some stage I started to think, maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe that isn't right. And that is a tactic of a narcissist, to make you doubt your sense of reality, to make you doubt your sense of trust for yourself. And literally what happens in that case is you just stop asking. You don't say anything, because again, you're literally at rock bottom. So if you can recognize any of these mind game techniques of a narcissist, try and surround yourself with people that you can speak to, or come into my world. I always say to people, one of the big things I found the hardest was the fact that I felt alone going through all of this. I don't want you to feel alone. So in the show notes, you will see that there is a link to come and join my free Facebook group, Narcissistic Abuse and Trauma Recovery for Women. Again, I know I have lots of men watching. Doesn't mean I don't work with men, but this group is primarily a safe place for women to come on. And we literally vet every single person. And every single month, we decline equally as many as we accept into the group, because I have a team of people that checks every single profile personally. We don't just let anybody into the group, okay? So it's a safe space. So I'd love to come and invite you. I don't want you to be on your own in any of this. I want to help educate you. But I also know sometimes a lot of this stuff can be really, really overwhelming too. So bite-sized chunks of the YouTube videos can just help you start to realize you're not on your own. You are not crazy. And let me help move you from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. And keep an eye out for those 3 mind games that the narcissist will play on you.